Well, we see the charm of cookie-less. We see the hall full, so we are sure that a lot of people are very much interested. So you can catch up with the speakers right outside the hall as well. Moving on to our next session, which is about retaining acquired customers through behavioral insights. And for this session, we have our moderator, Mr. Ankur Gattani, VP Growth and Marketing, Web Engage. Our panelist, Ms. Azmat Habibulla from Chief Marketing Officer, South Indian Bank, Mr. Deepak Saluja, Head of Marketing, ICICI Securities, Mr. Vora, Chief Marketing Officer, Mahindra Life Spaces, and Mr. Yogin Vora, Associate Director, Digital Marketing, Z5. I welcome all the panelists. Can we have a round of applause, please? Can we have a louder round of applause, please? Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Anyhow, we'll try and keep it short, exciting, and interesting for all of you. And I have a fairly interesting panel. We have real estate, we have securities, we have banking, and we have media. It's as diverse as it can get. And to get pretty much straight to the point, I am from a company called Web Engage. We're in the space of user engagement and retention. Big fans of using behavioral data and using customized ways of engaging with your customers. So what we would love to do, and I'm going to try and dig into all of these leaders' minds a little bit, is about how they're using behavioral insight, which is the kind of data that you have about a user from his own behavior on your platform. And then what do you do in order to engage with him differently or better, right? How do you get him to come back to you more often by knowing what kind of person this is? Now, it sounds very tactical, but to make it happen at a scale that which each of these guys operate can be quite a complicated process. And that's where I would love to have a few anecdotes from each of you, that this is what we've seen happen and this is what we do, and this is how we're deploying behavioral data. So, Deepak, over to you straight away.
Thank you. So I'll take a little step back. I think, one of the challenges as marketers we face is that technology can be kind of very overwhelming. And in recent times, we hear a lot of new fancy terms that emerge, which kind of add to the complexity that is already gearing up with the technology stacks that are today available as solution. Now, in regards to the topic, I would look at it at 3 stages of the consumer journey, wherein we kind of leverage a lot of these solutioning. One is the acquisition stage, the other is the activation, and the third is where we focus on generating our ARPU. So on the acquisition, during the COVID, our business, so I come from ICICI Securities, whose flagship platform is ICICI Direct, wherein we retail almost 35 plus product categories across multitudes of asset classes. So a user can actually invest, trade, take insurance, protection needs, as well as lending needs, including credit cards. So all of this gamut of services are available once he's got started on our platform. So that makes it all the more interesting when it comes to the topic like behavioral insights. So one of the shifts that we saw during the COVID was that we got into over-indexing our user journeys on the digital space, wherein we put together an entire funnel on the acquisition. Now, in the acquisition funnel, we obviously had stage-wise progression for the user. And that's where a lot of this behavior-led insights led to creating interventions, which today we have defined it across multiple interventions over a period. So it could be right from 10 minutes to a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day, where nudges are created using some of these capabilities. And the intent at the end of the day is to progress him, moving from one stage to another, wherein we get to acquire him. So it's a very important part of our daily chores of things that we do. Because we are acquiring customers at scale, this is something which is very pertinent, and therefore everything that happens during that journey fold is looked at it from the behavior of the user. Where is he finding friction? How do we ensure that those frictions are removed? We look at certain tools which are looking at the heat map of the user behavior. So all of these come in action. The other piece is activation. So once he's come onto a platform, he's opened up his account with us, while I may have at the back end his details, he still for me is a digital identity till he actually logs into my platform for the first time, which is where I can then take his digital footprint and associate it back to the customer ID that I've created. So that becomes a very important task for me on the activation. So here we look at a pool of communication, which is almost a 60-day intervention strategy, whereby we look at different referencing of our product solutioning, and we build into demographic insights. We look at past data of the user behavior, and we use these to create our drip campaigns around using some of these tech stacks and ensure that we move it to get him to do the first trade. So this is the activation where a combination of nudges, behavioral insights are all coming out of a convergence point, which is what we have the CDP platform that gives us or empowers us. And the third is the cross-sell, where we tend to look at cohorts created within the user behavior, either in terms of asset classes he's transacted in, we sub-segment him, we look at it from a risk profiling perspective, demographic perspective, and then we put into use A/B testing around those campaigns. And at every point in time, we are conscious about the clickstream data, the events that he's clicked at, the place, how's he doing about deep scrolling, how's he scrolling down the pages, where is his cursor hovering. All of this data insight then helps us to look at real-time behavioral insights to bring efficiency into the campaigns as we progress.
Deepak, I'm not going to let you go without giving me one example of a behavior and the kind of intervention you did post that.
So what we've observed in the case of, for example, the acquisition journeys, when the individual is hovering around certain aspects related to progressing from, say, a KYC stage, progression in the journey, and we see him struggling with going ahead on the stages, we tend to then push out nudges in form of either emailers that are going out with a complete FAQ. It goes into a complete walkthrough videos, which are embedded into those communication. And those then help him to kind of get self-assisted or do a DIY to move forward. At the same time, this data also is then pushed to, say, our call center teams that actively assist him in real-time basis to move him forward. So this is one of the examples that I can talk from the acquisition point of view.
So if you see a customer struggling, you will want to find a way to support him in real time. And that's actually quite a powerful use case if you think about real-time interventions. And I have panelists from the gaming industry, but for now, let's move to Ms. Azmat and talk about one more banking industry play.
Yeah. Hello. The importance of behavioral targeting cannot be undermined, and I see in future all targeting will be behavioral. In a sense, it allows you to get to know your customer better so that you can serve them not only with personalized and relevant messaging, but also at the right moment, the in-moment messaging, wherein at that very moment when they're looking for something and when you serve them that communication is when you will see the higher amount of conversion. So that's the future. Personalization at scale is what the future looks like. Coming to South Indian Bank, I'll talk about, we use predictive modeling to gauge propensity of customer behavior. So basically, it's an automated, it's a AI ML driven model which kind of scans through a particular segment of customers to build specific cohorts. For example, we use it for 3 key strategies. One is to gauge a propensity to acquire customers for a specific product or services, probability of risk or default. This is when we are giving loans. And second is also a collection strategy for customers who are likely to become NPA customers. So in the first one, giving you an example, the idea is to cull out the set of 30% customers who will give you 80% of your business, to focus your efforts on these customers, which will result for the organization cost savings, definitely giving more relevant communication, and also for the customers, it's to give them what they need at that moment of time, as I said. So just to give an example of the first thing, which is propensity to acquire. For example, if we had to do look at our NRI segment, South Indian Bank has a huge NRI pool, 30% of our customers are NRIs. And if I want to look at how many of these customers, or which is the pool which has a high propensity of taking deposits, FCNR deposits, which is foreign currency deposits. So we will study their transaction and their behavioral data, and basis that the model throws up high, medium, low in terms of the data pool, and you would communicate that specific product. to them. So certain behavior that you would be an input trigger would be the number of credits. Are they having 4 to 5 credits in a month or one large credit? What are their balances? Also a lot of demographic data, the age segmentation, and so on. In terms of the second one, where we're looking at assets, it's about identifying customers who have the least probability of default. Now here there would be like nudges, like, inputs like, for example, gold loan, how many customers have taken a huge amount of gold loan, not too much as well, because that's over leveraging, but enough, because they would be potential for personal loans. I'm giving you an example of personal loans, supported by the credit bureau data, which gives you the credit score, and together you would kind of be able to make segments, give a specific pre-approved offer for personal loans, also the right amount. And the whole process of availing POL is 10 seconds. A customer can get it credited in their account in exactly 10 seconds, personal loan. We built our entire PL portfolio basis this modeling technique. And the last is collections, which of course gives you the probability of a higher risk of delinquencies in a customer, even though at this point of time there may be nothing wrong with the behavior of the customer, and it allows you to translate that into a collection strategy. The other thing which I'll just very quickly touch upon is similar to what Deepak said, we also have a very strong onboarding strategy. And for a bank, actually, retention of a customer starts from day one. You'll be surprised to know that almost 40% of banking customers become inactive or dormant within a year of opening an account. So for us, the retention is right from day one. The first 90 days is very critical for onboarding. The first 30 days would be focused on, the customer opening as many channels as possible, especially the digital channels, the banking app, activating them on internet banking, credit, debit card usage, and so on. Then, of course, the focus would be on making them transact, funding the account and transacting at least 5 to 6 transactions within the first 45 days. And lastly, cross-selling or, giving them additional hooks. If they only have a savings bank account relationship, it's a vulnerability. So could you give them a loan or investments or opening a DP or even adding a family member account for that matter. So this whole process is automated with several triggers and nudges. And it completely is deciphered basis the behavior and this of the
So very
customer.
sophisticated system around this, but I mean, from what I was trying to zoom in, it seems a bit like a black box which absorbs a lot of behavioral data, translates that into a bunch of interventions, both in terms of triggers, in terms of when you should message, and what you should message, the message content itself. But clearly, behavioral data is at the center of everything. Right. So if you are putting in more money to your account more frequently, it would be interpreted differently. So as a brand owner on the other side, if you look at all the different interactions the customer has with your platform, what is he browsing, what is he spending time on, what is he not spending time on? For example, I think we'll see more examples, so let me not jump there, but Viral, you have something from real estate. So in real estate, you people, somebody would book a flat today or maybe see a demo flat today, book one today and probably get possession in whatever time, right? So the full journey of how the customer might change his mind halfway through, and how do you make sure that the behavior that you capture is being used?
Yeah, good afternoon. So, yeah, I mean, I just realized as Deepak and Azmat were talking that I'm as brick and mortar as you can get on the stage amongst all of you. But, so yeah, it's interesting that if you look at real estate as a category, it is about shelter, the base level of Maslow's. But yet it is something that one engages or interacts with maybe only once in their life as a brand. Very few people really manage to get more than one home. So it is a very, very big decision. Now, for us, retention, like you just said, is therefore defined a little differently, which is from the process of booking to possession can be anywhere from 2 to 4 years, depending on when when the person books. And they can obviously cancel and drop out anytime if they get a better home. So for us, retention is ensuring that the customer moves from booking to possession and actually takes possession of the house. So in that context, I'll just pick 2 big insights which actually determine a lot of how much they stay. The first is the fact that actually they're not buying a home. Yeah, they're buying the dream of what their life will be like when they move in. So anybody who's bought a home or is in the process or has seen somebody, when you enter a home, you see a large room, but you don't describe it as a large room. It'll be like, array, this has a large living room. I can put, the dining table can fit here. I can get my space for my bar. You're already starting to live your life there, right? And therefore, it's extremely important to keep that in mind. So if I take an example of how we use that for value housing. Now, value housing consumers, when I talk about their starting ticket size would be 25 lakhs going up to max 75 lakhs, right? For them, getting a home itself is a big struggle. And it's a big occasion, big milestone, but it's a big fight. And there are obviously a lot of other insecurities they have in their life. So one of the things that we've done in a few of our projects is, along with the home, we've also bundled in health insurance for a certain period of time. So it not only means security of one way, it also implies security of another way. And that becomes a big hook, even if they find a better deal, to then say, hey, I'm getting something that's equally important to me, which I can't afford, and therefore should I move out, kind of a thing. So that's one way of using it. The other big issue that comes up is so human beings have a weakness, which is in our spatial sense, right? So you can't define space very easily. So if we ask somebody, how big is this hall, it's very difficult to do, yeah? And ironically, an empty space seems smaller than a full space. So if you see this hall empty, you'll describe it or you'll define it smaller than when it is full right now. Because the things inside the room give you the sense of dimension and depth. Now, one of the biggest issues is, again, this category is the only one where people actually buy the raw material before the product is built. Right? They're actually paying for the sand, the cement, the steel, and so on and so forth, right? While it is being bought and constructed. So while that's a good thing, it might seem from a business point of view, what really happens is they bought a 2-bedroom, 600 square feet flat where one bedroom is XYZ dimension and the living room is ABC. They imagined something in their head. And then as construction progresses and they come and see some of the units, that is where the cookie could crumble because of the dissonance that might happen. So how do we use technology to kind of, and now it's much simpler than it used to be a few years ago, but to ensure that whatever they are seeing, they actually see it in as real a form so that they know exactly what they're buying. So many years ago, what we already started doing is, and you don't need very advanced technology for this, right? So photography, very old technology. A new technology that happened was drone. So we just combined the two, and when a design used to get made, we used to actually take videos and photographs of, depending on the design of the building, of the various heights from the various angles. So we could actually tell them, saying, you want a unit on the 7th floor, this is the view from your living room. So they started seeing things as they would get it. And that became a big hook for them to then not move out, because elsewhere they wouldn't get to see what they were getting while the deal might be better. So just two examples of how you tap into the basic insecurity and the basic desire, if one wants to call it that, and leverage it to retain them.
Sure, sounds great. And I'm sure, Yogin, they're smiling because the amount of data and the kind of complexity that they deal with at Z5 is...
He's envious that my life is so simple.
I don't know if it is simple truly, but what do you think about customer behavior monitoring, and then how do you deploy it for better engagement? The sheer scale and the complexity is quite interesting in your case, right?
We were just speaking right now, right? So my job is to make it sure that you guys don't sleep, and I take your maximum screen time. So that is a very tough job, and that comes with more of content discoverability, wherein if at all you know that, okay, there are two parts to this job. One is that I make it sure that you spend more time with me. I'm not racing the money, I'm racing the time with you. And second is, I'm racing when you fall off, I remind you and nostalgic that, oh, I'm here for you, I'm always there for you. So both are different aspects of the business in that way. When I say about looking at the behavior analytics of how I'm making sure your screen time increases, is by understanding you first, onboarding you, understanding that OTT as a category will always have your genre. Our content is a king. We don't have anything else to do. I can't put you a drone or I can't do anything else. I don't have an experience data to prove that, okay, how much you're worth for me. For me, it's like about your behavior, what you like. Do you like a particular genre? Do you like something else? So that matters a lot to us as a behavioral data. And putting this all pieces together, we understand in next first 15 days of onboarding, we understand what you like. Do you like horror? Do you like drama? Do you like love? Do you like what? And putting that all across, we understand that, okay, this is the particular space you are revolving around. So now my job is first to make it sure that you, whatever content I have, if at all I have a 2,000 hours, I can't give you everything together, right? I have to make it sure I segregate that particular time, that every month I'm sending you different thing, every week I'm sending you everything. The triggers and the joints which I've been creating, it's about what you watch right now. You have not watched this. The important component of OTT right now is what time are you watching and taking my screen time. So to understand that, it's going to be difficult because, for example, a competition will come up with something, say a bigger series, maybe Amazon or Netflix will come up. You know that prime time is gone. For us, prime time is defined, yeah, they are going to watch this entire binge watch it. That time, how to trigger that particular part is the most important and crucial part for any OTT. That how much time in night if I watch OTT for 3 hours. Give me 20, 25 minutes. Give me 1 hour of that particular time. That is the most crucial part.
But there's no way you're getting all of it, right? You know that and you acknowledge it. And that's life.
That is how it is because now the way the competition is increasing, the way people are bringing up new content.
Finally sleeping some at least.
So now I want you to, you guys to not sleep well and you should be awake till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock so that at least you start binge watching us or any other content you want because every OTT is fighting your time. Second thing about money, when you drop off, we know all the data after your drop off in 1 year, right? We know everything about it. So what you watched, what genre you watch in which month, on February what you're watching. We can create a snapshot and send it across to you. This is what you liked about because you spent good amount of time. Every content, like for us, RRR was a global hit and we served in a regional language. We didn't take Hindi because people in any country believe that watch it as original language is the best thing ever. And that has been a global phenomenon for everyone in RRR. You go to US, you go to Russia, everyone's talking about RRR. For us, when we onboarded the user, one of the use case, we onboarded the users, we got a huge spike in the revenue, we got a huge spike in the numbers, viewing time and everything. But later, when that phenomena after 1 month, 2 months, we started to see them. So what we can do next is, we start remembering, making them remind about how you like this particular part, how you like this, and then Kartikeya to happen. For us, if content is not there, it's a lull period for a longer time. You will not be able to retain them for a longer period, right? So the best part, what as a retention team you can do is, make them sign up for a longer period. So that when they sign up for a longer period, we don't have a dynamic pricing in our industry right now. Because right now you can just put them for 1 month and just bring them on board. But after that you have to go on the normal pricing because if I start charging you different, that's not a parity in the customer's mind. So for us, it's a different ball game, but more of behavior, emotions, genre, everything acts upon. It's like Karan Johar movie for us when we actually start looking at the data.
So would it be fair to say then, Yogin, that the next push notification I would get about a new arrival of a series on your platform would practically be utilizing everything you know about my viewing behavior, whatever kind of content I've watched, the language, the genre, the time of the day at which I've been watching. You know all of this when you're deploying the next messaging for me.
That depends on the time you have spent and given the data.
Of course.
Then yes, if you spend more time, definitely you'll get to know and nudge about that, saying that, okay, this series is here. You last watched this series. You should watch this. This is what percentage of matching will be for you.
So, so all of the stuff that we hear about the Googles and the Facebooks, knowing a lot of your data, borderline invasion of privacy somewhere, but at an individual level, you might actually see the benefit in doing this because if you are, let's say, an Amazon user or a Kindle app user, the kind of recommendations that are thrown to you, if they're not personalized well, you probably get to see the same stuff as somebody else does, which is low in relevance. So from our perspective, personalization with high relevance is actually good for the consumer. while there is this whole complicated debate around privacy, but I mean, it's ultimately anonymized at all levels. So you have a system that's processing all of that data and then throwing it back. And this is usually most of these processes are not personally identifiable. So there's nothing to be insecure about it from that perspective. You know, and I get an example from the gaming industry, and it's somewhat evil-minded, like Yogin is smiling over there. You know, so for example, one of the gaming companies we know of, and I can't name them, is when as a user, you come into the platform for the first time, they make money as a house, right? So the more you bet, the more you keep playing, the more money they would make. So while he wants their attention, the gaming companies also want the same attention. And what they noticed was people coming from a certain set of cities and a certain set of channels tended to drop off after the first interaction itself. So they would come, install the application, maybe play around the screen a little bit, and then they would drop off. And basis this information, they figured, okay, if we need to get these guys back, maybe it's a good idea to put a 50 rupee thing in their wallet. Whoever people do come back to use that 50 rupee would inevitably end up gambling more than that money, right? So to me, the whole real-time aspect of using behavioral insights can be extremely powerful. And obviously, you can imagine how the cohorts move from there, right? So people who were not playing a second game now started to play a second game thanks to those 50 rupees. And I would love to understand, you know, if you have a specific thought that as an experiment you would love to see deployed, whether it's in your brand or in another brand that you know of, given that we have a slightly shortest time left. Maybe one quick example from each of you that, you know, I've seen these guys do this and basis my data or something like that. And this is quite compelling. So any such user stories?
So, I don't know if it's addressing this completely, but I would try to relate to a very recent experience of my own. So I was, flying off to Delhi for an event, and I see my moderator having a smile. So I was flying off for an event, and I was booked at a hotel, and the platform from where the booking was done was Make My Trip. And I had sought help on the transport from the airport to the hotel. Now, when the plane hit the tarmac and when I switched on my phone, the first thing that hit me was a push notification stating there is a e-ride available for you from a parking lot just across the main airport terminal exit point. And, you know, as a customer at that point in time, you are, quite challenged because you're trying to get familiar with, okay, and trying to hear instruction around your conveyor belt. Where do you pick up your luggage? So this kind of sorted my life because I knew what's the next thing, and I was running. There was very little time between my arrival at the venue and attending the event. So I kind of followed that instruction to the T. I got into the car, and it also offered some discount, right? And I did not read too much of the detail. I just found it, okay, this is your car is available, parking lot 3, whatever. And I went along with the driver, only to get frantic calls when I was nearing the venue from the hotel, as well as the driver who was waiting at the airport. And their call out to me was, sir, we are there, and where have you, you've not landed, or we're not sure where are you, we are not able to locate you. And I said, I'm nearing the hotel. Now, in that entire experience, one thing that resonated in my mind was the fact that, someone in that travel portal had this data of my booking converted into intelligence that could carve out a subsequent messaging that was more contextual and relevant for me and push it at exactly the time when the aircraft lands. So this is a perfect situation that I would want to adapt, and I think that's what we are progressing when we are looking at our consumer behavioral insight, is to contextualize it, build a lot of insights around the user behavior, and make sure it creates that nudge. Because now the next time if I have to do the booking, that will be the portal that will always occupy the first recall for me rather than any of the other platforms.
Thank you for that plug, Deepak. Incidentally, that's Make My Trip, and that's our customer, and that's WebEngage they're using for this purpose. It wasn't paid for, so please, Azmat.
So another example of travel only, and I'm a passionate traveler, and I use TripAdvisor a lot, and I'm also a very, very ardent, passionate reviewer. I review a lot, and I also seek reviews for my travel planning. So TripAdvisor is my go-to site, and I think the way they also look at data and the way they personalize and the way they nudge it's really amazing. I mean, when you're looking at a particular location, immediately they will push relevant communication of that specific city that you're searching, and then soon after they'll push communication on hotel bookings and travel with their partners, which they have partnered with. And then if you still don't do a specific booking through TripAdvisor site, after a couple of days, they will again nudge you. Have you done your booking yet? Have you, this? And I really like the way they do it. I mean, it's, I think.
Well orchestrated, if that's the word you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Very personalized and.
So it's not invasion of privacy, it's personalization in some sense. So I kind of compare this to the butler you have in the house who might always know what you would probably want to eat if you have come back at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? That's personalization for me. Viral, any examples from you?
So there is an example from BFSI, actually, interestingly, which if I could, I'd like to apply for our value customers again, largely because they need help in terms of the financial commitments and making sure that the EMIs for the home go through, which is understanding their personal status in life and how you can help them. So there's somebody I know who was overseas and had to admit a close relative to hospital. And, at that point in time, obviously, you're not going to have cash and so on and so forth. So admitted the person, and to pay the initial advance, etc., swiped the card. And the moment they swiped the card, he got a message immediately saying, we see that you swiped at so-and-so hospital. Is everything okay? Do you need additional limit? And that kind of empathy, but at the same time, you're pushing business in a good way, it was amazing. And to use data that way, and if I could know about my customers that way in terms of where they are defaulting or what's their issue and how does one help them, it would be great.
As real time as it can get, amazing. Yogin, any quick examples from you?
I was just thinking about Uber in that way. I was waiting at a signal for like 15 minutes. I was waiting for 15 minutes in a signal, and I just realized I got a message on Uber saying that, are you okay? Is that okay? Are you, going through accident or something like this? I was like, that was very quick. No one thought, and I didn't even get it alone. My driver also got it. So that is something as a viewer, if at all they are watching something like this, if they are not moving, they are just watching still, and they incompletely, watching that thing, and just immediately create, did you have any problem? Did you not like the scene? Did you want to just move forward and watch after 10 seconds? I'm talking about saying that get engrossed in the customers or the viewers who are not only watching content, they are the family, building a community, saying, oh, you didn't like this thing? We can ruin. Because there are some people who don't like seeing blood. You never know. So if at all they might be like exiting out, so let's put a trigger, something like that. I just thought on the foot. I like the
Very
fire chat.
interesting, yeah. So I see the time is up, and maybe one quick example from the EdTech ecosystem. So while live class attendance is considered a big use case, what I also heard from a conversation earlier today was around what are you doing in that session? So if you're attending a live class, are you raising your hand? Are you saying anything? Are you asking questions? Is your camera switched on or switched off? Did you switch off your camera a few times during the session? All these pieces of data are very important insights for the brand owner, the EdTech company, to genuinely understand how is the audience engaging with the session, how is the teacher being rated, because that's kind of where the subsequent retention and renewals will come from. If I was actually throughout the class switched off my camera, then this whole value proposition for me is defeated, right? Anyhow, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful panel. I hope you guys got some ideas around what's possible, and you can imagine your own use cases as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ankur.